to Mike Fight. I'm Chris.
And I'm Chris.
All right, and here we're two Long Island guys ready to go on a rant. So, it is January 21st. Thank you. And that is one day after the inauguration. This is President Joe Biden's first full day in the White House. So, what better way to start off a podcast than talking about his successor, right? So, or the predecessor. I'm sorry. Yeah, the predecessor. So,
better way to piss off a bunch of Biden people. Yeah. Keep talking about Trump.
Definitely. Just keep him in the limelight. Hey, he hinted as he was leaving, right? I'll be back in some form.
He's not going anywhere.
And
the media for sure is definitely going to keep talking about him because without him they'd be boring.
Well, they've already kind of started phasing him out, and given the fact that Mitch McConnell has given the okay to go forward with the second impeachment, it's going to drag it out a little bit longer, and I think he's done him a favor by putting it into February as opposed to doing it right now, just to kind of let Biden get his feet a little wet in the water, so to speak, and start rolling out some of his 17 executive orders that he signed. And I think it allows him to get his feet wet, get his administration rolling. And then we'll go back at Trump and make sure he doesn't ever run again in the next month.
Yeah, well, they don't want to overshadow Biden's first couple of weeks with more Trump talk because, they're too busy licking his boots.
So now let's kind of backtrack. Let's go back to the reason why, let's say, majority of Americans, right? Majority of Americans, Hillary did win the majority vote, but Trump did very, very well in the Electoral College, and hence why he became our president in 2016.
And he added 12 million more people to his tally this time around.
So this is what interests me, and that I can't understand, because when you really think about it, when Trump ran in 2016 and 2015 into 2016, it was really phenomenal to see. Now, I'll be completely honest here. He was not my first choice. He, as a Republican, as a registered Republican, I did not vote for him as to be the president or the person to represent the party. I thought that his gusto was a little bit much. I thought it wasn't necessarily going to garnish enough of the large R Republicans. It definitely was going to fit very well with the little R Republicans, in my view. But the large R Republicans, or the capital R Republicans, some of them may call them rhinos, I felt weren't going to take to him. And I obviously was wrong. I mean, granted, there are still those never Trumpers.
Of course. Right?
There's always going to be those. They're in any particular party. But the Never Trumpers were hard Never Trumpers right from the beginning all the way through the end. I would even say that they hurt him badly in this election because they had 4 years to figure out a way how not to make him available or viable president in the following 4 years. So, but yeah, full-blown transparency. I didn't vote for him. My first choice was I actually voted for Ted Cruz. I thought he was a more viable candidate for the Republican Party at that time.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. My thing was when the day he came where he walked down or rode down that escalator, looking back on it, it's funny. To me, it's hysterical. But when that happened, the first thought in my head was, holy crap, look at this guy. And he wasn't my first choice either. And I didn't think he was actually serious. I don't
think anybody did.
I didn't think he thought he was serious.
Well, let's put it this way. I remember my father and I talking several years back, like 2 presidencies ago. Do you think Trump's going to get in? He says he's thinking about it. He says he's thinking about it. He's been thinking about it for 15, 16 years, maybe 20 years up to that point. I think there were interviews back in the 80s if people were asking him when he was going to run for president.
There was that one interview that went around when he first started running with Oprah, where even Oprah was on his bandwagon.
Listen, I think Trump is, or it still is, right? One of the main reasons. Let's start why he was able to reach so many people. Now, people will disagree with some of this, but you got to look at it in a little bit of objective view. He is successful. Okay?
Right.
He had no political ties. I think that was the major contribution that he had, or major advantage that he had over everybody else in that primary and in the Democratic primary or any of the candidates. He had no political ties. He even went as far as said, "Yeah, I gave money to Democrats. I gave money to Republicans.
Yeah.
It's business." And that's what he was. People think that, in my opinion, people look at Trump and like, he's not presidential. Well, duh. He's not a politician. And even now that he's the president, a past president, he's still not a politician in my mind.
Well, that was, I think, that was his strength and his weakness.
Absolutely.
Now looking back on it, because the reason why he was so appealing in the beginning was because people forget about the whole rest of the country, right? So you get all the people who live in New York, you get all the people who live in California, Chicago, the main cities,
right,
that are more working people that work in cities, corporations, more like sophisticated type of employment, that watch the news every day, that feed into it, that believe it, and they've been ingrained with this idea of what a politician, especially a president, is supposed to be. They have this picture of how he's supposed to look, how he's supposed to carry himself, how he's supposed to speak. Trump appealed to the majority of the rest of the country that presidents in the past, including Republicans, forgot about. And those are the people that the middle of the country, the Midwest, the suburbs, the rural areas, the people that actually work to keep this country running. They get their hands dirty. The farmers, the coal miners, the people that work in the factories. The car you're driving, who's the person who built that car? Those are the people that are forgotten. And those are the people who don't give a damn whether you have a nice suit and whether you're polite when you speak. All they give a damn about is, what are you going to do to help us out? What are you going to do to keep us going? And I think that he appealed to that group of people, and that ended up spreading like a disease.
Oh, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think he tapped into a set of the Republican Party that was not focused on for a very, very long time. Going back as far, Reagan was probably the prime and last example of a person that was able to tap into every single Republican and Democrat across the spectrum. I mean, Reagan won every single state except for one, and that was his challenger's own home state. Okay, in the second election. So, in the second term. So, I mean, that person is like the standard, I would say, for the Republican Party. Now, people as far as went as to say that Trump was going to be the second Reagan, in my opinion, that's far from it. I don't think he had the gusto as far as presence that Reagan had. Reagan was an actor. Trump, although he was on TV, isn't an actor.
No.
He's far from that.
Right.
If anything, he is a character, right? He's a character, not necessarily an actor. Reagan was able to take his acting skills and then put that out there in the political spectrum. And it worked very, very well for him. Trump just isn't able to do that because, number one, again, he's not an actor, but he's a character. What he does is flamboyant, and that's why all of his shows that he did, all of the businesses that he's invested in, Taj Mahal, the casinos, Atlantic City. I mean, it was going the 80s and 90s. The flashiest thing hotspot was Atlantic City. I mean, everything, the Taj Mahal, all that stuff. That was the Trump Casino. I mean, I remember my grandparents gushing over having to go to the Trump this, Trump is great, Trump, they had the casino, the embroidered jackets, everything.
Yeah.
Go down to Atlantic City,
Well, he was the most, or at least one of the most popular people at the time. I mean, they were writing songs about him. He was in magazines left and right. He was getting interviewed by everybody. The guy's got photo ops with every known celebrity, newscaster, politician at that time. Everybody wanted to be in his presence. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that, yeah, he donated a
Right.
lot of money.
Right. He
And
gave money to them. So that was one of the things that struck me as a positive, that, you know what? If this guy does get the nomination, at the time this is me thinking, if this guy does get the nomination, that's going to be his major advantage. He can turn to any one of them, right, and say, well, I gave money to you, especially the older politicians, maybe not so much like a Ted Cruz or Marco Rubio, because they were kind of young at the time in their political career, but more of like to definitely the Hillary Clinton. We know,
oh yeah,
no, we know that he gave money to Hillary Clinton.
absolutely.
She I don't know if she's ever actually admitted to it, but they've gone to parties together.
Yeah.
They were at gatherings together. He donated to their political ambitions, all that stuff. But here's the flip side: he did it to Republicans as well, right? He is a businessman, forever will be a businessman.
Right. Well, when you think about how he grew up, right? He grew up with his father, who was one of the biggest real estate moguls in New York. And yeah, he dealt with the outer boroughs and, the smaller apartment buildings and more of like the common person. But I'm sure he was there watching his father negotiate
Absolutely.
cutthroat deals
Absolutely.
with people in the banking business, Wall Street, people that don't give a damn about you or anybody else. All they care about is their money, what's going to make them rich. And he watched his father deal with those types of people. And he grew up with the ambition to not only be just like his father, but to get above and beyond his father. And that's why he ventured into Manhattan and decided, small apartment buildings in Queens and Brooklyn, yeah, great, good for those people. That's my father's thing. Me, I'm going to Manhattan and I'm going to help clean up that city. And I'm going to put the biggest, most luxurious, beautiful buildings in there that everybody's going to come from around the world to see, to live in, to, rent apartments, do their business. And that's exactly what he did. And maybe his methods weren't always 100%. He didn't always make money. He lost a lot of money. Yeah, there's a lot of controversy around his dealings when he was, doing the real estate or whatever. But he went from watching his father going through that whole lifestyle and then getting into it himself and dealing with even worse people in that type of business. And he took that mentality and he brought it into a presidency where, again, yeah, he's not a politician. He's a businessman. He wants to get shit done. He's going to get it done his way. He's going to be brash. He's going to be aggressive because he wants to make sure that whoever he's dealing with, whether it was China or Mexico or Canada or, NATO, that this is how we're going to do it. And I'm not going to take your shit. You're not going to walk all over us. That time is over.
The CEO mentality is much different than I think people actually think. So people that manage other people probably have a more of a understanding of where he's coming from or where he's came from. So what people don't understand is that you kind of have to be a dick sometimes when you're managing people. It's not a pleasant thing. I can tell you that from being a manager of people, it's not necessarily the most fun, but you have to push back. You have to have your employees or your staff members or your team members challenge you. That's what you want, right? You eventually you want them to grow as well as you and the company that you're running to grow. And that's the mentality that I feel he had throughout the presidency. I mean, he's the CEO of the United States of America, right?
Right.
It's a concept that very few people can grasp because all they can see is a person who they can't relate to, right? It's a person that just doesn't have the je ne sais quoi of a person that's been in politics for 20 years, who knows exactly what to say, who knows how to answer a question by not answering the question, right? That was never him. It was just, no, I'm not going to do it this way. They're running all over us. They're taking advantage of us, and we're not going to take it anymore.
Yeah. Well, coming from my line of work, being in law enforcement, we deal with the same thing where everybody wants a police officer or correction officer or anybody in that public spectrum, a security guard, to be nice and polite and respectful. And yeah, that's when you go into any job that you go into, that's exactly how you walk into that job. You're going to go in there, you're going to be respectful, you're going to be nice. Most of the time, that's reciprocated. But then there comes a time when it's not. And when you're trying to be nice and you're trying to do the right thing, and instead you're getting taken advantage of, you're getting disrespected, you're getting, walked over, and you're trying to be nice, you're trying to keep that up. But eventually there comes a time when nice is over, and now it's time to hit them with what they're giving you. And that's what people, I don't know if they don't go through it in their personal life or if they do and they just don't realize it, but that's when you finally hit them with what they gave you back, and then that person stops and goes, wait a minute, you can't do that to me. It's like, well, you just did that to me, and now I just gave it back to you. You don't like it.
Right.
Now you know how it feels.
Right. Exactly.
And I think that's exactly what he did.
And he was brash about it. Like
Yeah,
he held nothing back. That was the thing. He was a bulldog.
Right. And that's the thing. It's like he was getting crushed from day one. Day one, 19 minutes into his presidency. Already, Washington Post headline, the plan to impeach the president has already begun. The day after his inauguration, I think it was, on The View or whatever, one of those garbage daytime shows, they were talking about how they need to start impeachment proceedings. And from that day on, through his entire presidency, he was getting crushed.
He had so many limitations because of all the things that were thrown against him. He could never get traction. Granted, and you brought this up to one of your points before, being a businessman, he's going to get shit done.
Right.
Right? Even with everything that you just said, from the moment he took office, the moment he went in there, he was already getting lambasted for all these things that turned out to be not true. Let's not forget that. He went every single year, there was something that was holding him back, holding his administration back, distractions. But given all that, he still, I think, accomplished what? 65, 70% of everything that he promised he was going to do?
Right.
No president, none, even the great Ronald Reagan, didn't accomplish all of that stuff in 4 years. 4 years with all of the crap thrown at him.
Well, think about it. How many politicians would have even survived through the 4 years that he went through? Not many.
I don't think so. I don't think any would have really been able to. Let's put it this way: they may have survived, but they would not have been able to thrive.
Right.
And he did both.
Exactly. And again, going back to just being nice, everybody talks about how he's so nasty with the media. He's so combative with the media. He's combative with other countries, and it's like, why do you think that was the way it was? When from day one, you're already crushing him. You're already talking about impeachment proceedings, about how he's the worst president basically in the world. You have other countries that are tweeting and having press conferences talking about how this is the worst day in the world for everybody because he's the president. And you expect him to be nice. No. Because you're
talking about a New Yorker. Okay, yeah, number one, you're talking about a New Yorker growing up in Queens, who's been in real estate business, who deals with a lot of shady people. You're not gonna get over on him by being nasty to him. If anything, you're gonna get it right back in your face.
Yeah, you're gonna make him more emboldened. And that's the thing that's so aggravating is New York is consistently it's a red state but a blue city.
Oh, 100%
right?
There.
But everybody talks about how tough New York City is, how the people who live here are so tough and we can get through anything we do. And yet, they are the most insulted, easily offended group of people that I have seen, probably ever. This generation.
Oh, I was gonna ask you like where are you going with that, because I know a lot of tough New Yorkers, but when you said this
This
generation,
generation.
I would say definitely
Within
the
the
millennial.
last 20 to 25 years, I'd say.
Yeah. So what is that? They go millennial and then Generation X is the next one, or is that how it goes? Or
I think
Generation
X,
Y or Z,
Y,
whatever.
whatever the hell they're up to now.
So I would agree that there is a sense, and I wouldn't just single that out to New York. I would
Cities.
yeah, I would say metropolitan
Yes.
areas, large metropolitan areas, because I can definitely see that in California.
Well, where is the highest crime?
Metropolitan
Areas, right? That's where the most crime is. That's where the hardest companies exist. Their headquarters, that's where those companies exist, where your Wall Streets are, where it's all, cutthroat business and things like that. And so you think like people who have to live there or commute there, work there, they have to deal with that on a daily basis, and you think it would harden them. And that's what old New Yorkers, it was.
Right.
Because you go back to the 70s, the 80s, and
there was a lot more shit that they dealt with now than they do now here.
And they were tougher people. And you know what? They still were overwhelmingly Democratic, but they finally had enough and voted in Giuliani because they realized this shit ain't working anymore. We need somebody who's actually going to have balls, who's not going to care if he offends you with the way he speaks or if you don't like his tactics, but he's going to make sure he gets shit done. And that guy cleaned up the city in 8 years.
Yeah.
Cleaned up the city.
Yep.
And then the people who moved in after that, because of course New Yorkers, they go from that to Bloomberg. Bloomberg wasn't terrible as a mayor. He was actually pretty good. And then he got a little crazy after he left office.
I think he started his craziness when he went for his third term. When he changed,
when he tried to be FDR.
It was funny with that because he said I would not do that. Then as it got closer, he flipped it and said, you know what, I'm changing the rules to allow me to do that.
Right.
Now, whether you think that was a good thing or a bad thing for the city is a little bit different, but I do agree with you that he just, once he realized that there was power, it was going to be, I don't want to let go of it, right? That's what tends to happen when people get into these political positions.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised in a way that it didn't happen to Trump. Honestly, I'm actually a little bit surprised because I can tell you this: when you get fed constantly by the media that this guy he's not going to leave the office. He's got his finger on the button. We're going to war with North Korea. We're going to war with China. He's going to obliterate none of those things.
It was doomsday from day one.
None of those things happened. As a matter of fact, I recall President Trump being the first president to go and actually speak to that crazy North Korean dude.
Yeah,
okay?
And what did they give him for it? Shit.
Oh, absolutely. How do you even... Oh, first of all, we should have better relations with the North Koreans.
Your enemies.
Let's have better relations. Okay, so here's a guy that goes out and says, all right, little rocket man, right? The little rocket man. Yes. Let's actually sit down and have a chat. Holy shit! He's having a chat with the North Koreans. The hell is wrong with this guy?
Yeah.
Well, you just said we should have better relationships.
Well, because they turn everything around, right? So anything President Trump did, they had to take the opposite
just
stance.
Because he did it.
Yes.
Regardless of whether it was actually something that they agree with or they think is a good idea, just because he had his name on it or it's associated with him, it's bad.
Yes.
Look at Cuomo just recently with the whole freaking vaccine thing. Oh, we're going to have our own independent panel to make sure that these vaccines are safe. Who the hell are you?
Yeah, exactly.
That
guy's a power hungry.
What medical background do you have, or any of people in your panel, that is going to go against Pfizer, Moderna, the FDA, and say, "Oh yeah, this isn't good"?
Well, this is what I love. Trump creates this Operation Warp Speed, right? And he, for the past whatever it's been, 8-9 months, they've had their foot on the neck of all these medical companies, these scientists, and they've been working their asses off to get this vaccine out. And he specifically says it's going to be up to the states to distribute. Okay?
Which I totally agree with.
Right, 100%.
I totally agree with.
You're calling the guy a tyrant and a dictator, and yet everything he does...
He gives you full reign.
Right.
I've given you the goods. You give it to your people.
Exactly. And in the 9 months or 8 months, whatever it's been since this whole thing started, people like Cuomo had that much time to come up with a plan, with a distribution plan. This is who's going to get the vaccines, and these are who's going to distribute it. We're going to use the National Guard. We're going to use police.
You're forgetting
whatever.
one big thing. He was on a book tour.
Oh, that's true. I forgot. He was too busy researching his book,
on his
writing about what
skills.
a great job he did for the COVID response.
That's
You're
right. For the COVID.
Right.
He
New
was on a
York.
book tour. Remember,
True.
it's a book on leadership on how to kill thousands of people in nursing homes.
And then how to not have a distribution plan so that thousands of doses of vaccines end up getting thrown in the garbage or expired.
Go expired.
Exactly.
That's what it is.
That's who I want telling me how to freaking be a leader.
Right. So that was you forgot about that. That's the reason.
Sorry.
You forgot about that. So
He's
we
just
have
such a
just to
great guy.
be. You have to be fair. You have to be fair, right? We
You're
want to be a little bit fair. He was on a book tour on leadership, touting and banging his chest on how great he is. So you have to give him some. I was on my tour. I didn't know I had to do this. I didn't.
But he gave press conferences every day, and he was so transparent with the public.
Did you actually watch some of those press conferences?
They were cringy. Everything he did was cringe. The
best.
Okay.
The best was. I know we're kind of going off topic here, but you know what? It's so relevant right now because we are New Yorkers and we have to deal with this on a daily basis. The best was when he was actually showing people how to wear a mask. He's got it on. He's pulling it down. This is not how you wear a mask. This is how you wear a mask. This is not. This is how. Over the nose. Over the nose.
Well, that was there's a governor. I think it was a governor in Maryland or Virginia, somewhere down there. Might have been a lesser politician, like a congressman or something. But he's an anti-gun guy, and he was trying to explain to people the difference between automatic guns and semi-automatic guns, and he was literally using hand pistols and going, the gun that's semi-automatic sounds like this, bang, bang, bang. But if it's fully automatic, it's bang, 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 bang. And he's actually doing this in a press conference. And people like that expect you to take them seriously.
Yeah.
And there's actually people out there who do take them seriously. And that's the scary part.
Yeah.
Is someone watching that press conference, or the one that you just mentioned with Cuomo, people are watching it going, oh my God, we're so lucky to have these people in charge of us. What would we do without them?
So now here's the scary thing with that, because you brought up an important point, and it really sticks me. Again, being in my profession and somewhat in the medical field, I see this guy say that he's got to have this independent panel, right? Separate independent panel to deem whether these vaccines coming out of warp speed are going to be, worthy, right? That whatever. So now here's to your point. There are actually people that listen to this guy that actually think what he says is actually credible on everything. Listen, if the guy was talking about how to run politics and stuff, yeah, you're a politician. I get it. I'm going to listen to what you say on how to play the game and do do-si-do, okay? But when it comes to medicine, I'm not really going to listen too much to you, right? I'm really not going to. Maybe if you throw a doctor in there, I'll listen to what the doctor says, but I'm not listening to you. But other people do, okay? And they think that whatever this guy says is like Jesus Christ, okay? So I read in an article that there were 60% of nursing home staffers, okay, 60% in New York State, of the people that work in long-term care facilities and nursing homes are refusing the vaccine. These are the nurses, these are the help aides, these are every staff member in these long-term care facilities that are now refusing the vaccine. Hello? That's dangerous. I'm sorry. I feel that if anyone should get this, again, it's been botched in New York terribly. Nursing homes, people of the age of 65 and older, comorbidities, obese, definitely should have gotten the vaccine first. Okay? Nursing home personnel. Yeah. Why? Because we had like 7,000 to 9,000 people in nursing homes die over this thing.
Right.
It only makes sense. Give it to the staff members. Why? Because they can infect the elderly, who's at the top of the list of people that can really get harmed from this.
Right.
But when you put it in their minds that it's not safe, or there's a possibility that it's not safe because it comes from a guy who you hate,
Right.
who you just absolutely knock heads with every single time that either one of you speak about each other, then all of a sudden now you're putting people's lives in danger.
Right.
Because they believe you.
But what is he going to do? When that day comes, when more nursing home patients, residents, whatever the case is, when more of them start passing away, what are they going to do? Because now Biden is president. He's their new golden calf.
Oh no, dude! We've already had reports. His first day in, already reports from Dr. Fauci himself. The Dr. Fauci, the doctor. All right, the doc has already said it appears we've hit a coronavirus plateau.
Oh, really?
His first day in office.
A week ago, all I heard about was super strains spreading throughout the country,
absolutely,
killing a whole bunch of people.
Absolutely,
now
absolutely.
All of a sudden we hit a plateau.
No, we've hit a It appears we've hit a plateau.
Wow.
That from the doc himself, because now he's what? Biden's top advisor, medical advisor, right? Biden's now in warp speed, right? Biden says that warp speed's the distribution of it is a total disaster.
Of course.
Right? Now he got the doc to say, hey, look, wow, you know what? I think we're on a plateau. I don't think it's going to get any worse from here. People are still going to die, but I don't think it's going to get any worse.
Yeah. And what they'll do is they'll just suppress the information like they do with everything else. They're not going to focus on the amount of deaths anymore. They're not going to focus on the amount of infections, right? Just yesterday, I think it was, what was the CDC telling everybody that, if you don't show symptoms, you don't need to get tested anymore.
Right. We want to kind of actually slow that down. We want to bring the burden less. We want to allow only if you have symptoms now. Right. You don't necessarily.
So now all of a sudden, all the talk about corona is going to start subsiding. They're going to talk about what a disaster warp speed was, and then they're going to wait a few months for Biden to be in office for a couple.
Well, the first 100 days he's going to start. He's already opened up. He's directed FEMA. He's directing FEMA to. This is basically what it is. It's a disaster because Trump allowed the states to take care of it.
Exactly, and the majority of those states are people who hate him and want nothing
and
more
have
to see
no
him fail.
idea. I would even go further. I wouldn't even say it's that political. I would say that these are individuals that have no hucking idea how to run anything, okay? Yeah. And they have no clue on how to do this properly. So they need the big daddy government to come in and tell them what it is to do. I don't know what to do with these. What do I do with these, Joe? What do I do? So they come in here, and Joe's going to come in, and Joe's going to go, hey, don't worry about it. You know what? We're going to set up FEMA over here. We're going to do a couple of things over there. And guess what? Those centers are going to do it. And you know what? We're going to get the pharmacies. You know what? Because someone told me that pharmacists are good at this stuff, I don't know. I don't know. They can do this stuff too, right? You know what? Let's get, CVS and Walgreens. Hey, you give out vaccines for the flu, right? Yeah, don't tell anyone, but this is kind of like the flu. Let me tell you. Here, why don't you give these vaccines out too? Hey, guess what? Now we got a whole bunch of people.
Working.
Oh, everything's going on. And then you got the governors going, oh, yeah, because we got the federal government.
Yeah,
Look,
we finally had a leader to tell us how to do this stuff.
That's it. We got to know how to do this. You mean to tell me you couldn't say, hey, CVS, hey, Walgreens, hey, mom and pop store, pharmacy, let's start opening this up. Oh, and by the way, who's the most vulnerable? Oh, people of age of 65 and older and comorbidities. Oh, diabetes, obesity. Okay, you know what? Lung disease, emphysema. You guys get it first too. No, we're going to give it to the fucking teachers union.
Yeah, who refuse to go to work.
You got to be kidding me.
Yeah. Don't even get me started. That's for another day.
You got to give me a break. Well, you know what? That's actually a perfect point here to end this episode. I'm Chris.
And I'm Chris, and this is where we drop the mic.